Hi folks, so in today's video what we're going to do is very quickly we're going to complete this question on perspective projection. Okay, it's very much an introductory question on the topic of perspective. So I'm assuming at this stage you would have obviously got an understanding of it and what it is to do with perspective from your teacher in class. Okay, so this question here, this is how we're going to do the setup. Okay, we've been given the 2D views of an object, given are the projections of a solid, construct a perspective view of the solid. The location of the spectator is given below, spectator S, so that's the person who's going to be looking at the solid. It says the picture plane passes through the corner closest to the spectator, which would be this corner here. Sometimes we put a letter on that, we're going to put a letter A on it, okay? And closest to the spectator, and the horizon line is 50 millimeters above the ground. Okay, that's a bit of information that's important, okay? So first of all, when we're looking at doing a perspective, we're always basing our perspective off of the plan view, okay? What we need the elevation for simply is our heights, okay? And we've got a height here, obviously, of the first step, and then the second kind of section here. What you'll actually see here in a little 3D sketch I've prepared beforehand, this is kind of like a 3D sketch of the object, and what I've got here is the corner A, where our picture plane, okay, is going to be. Okay, and you can see our picture plane is touching it. That means that this whole edge here of the object, from there down to there, is on the picture plane. Okay, everything else, this point here, this point, all the other points on the object are behind the picture plane. Okay, so the only edge that's on the picture plane is that edge right there. Okay, so in perspective, we have to be able to set up our drawing, okay, so that we're able to complete it. So first of all, what we have to do is we have to, from the spectator, I have to set up what's known as my cone of vision from the right hand most point of the object to the left hand most. Remember, we're just focusing on the plan. That is the extreme right of the object as the spectator looks at it, and the extreme left. Now with the cone of vision there, that's the area of the object that he sees, he or she sees. What I'm going to do is, I'm now going to get the line of vision, okay, which is the line in between. Okay, so I'm going to bisect the angle created by the cone of vision. So bisect that angle. Having bisected that angle, just going to set that up. That there, that line right there is known as my line of vision. Okay, now what I want to do with that is perpendicular, or sorry, line of sight, apologies. It's called your line of sight. Now perpendicular to your line of sight, which is this line here, I'm going to set up my 45-degree set square on it. Okay, I'm going to set my other set square underneath, rotate it this way, and I'll get a perpendicular angle going the other way. Now, that line there, going through the corner A, would be called my picture plane. Okay, now, I've got the picture plane, okay, which we're seeing as a line here in our plan view. Okay, because when I'm looking down on top of it in the plan, I would see this plane here as a line. I'm just seeing that kind of surface there, but I'd see it as an edge view or as a line. Okay, once again, the corner A is on it. Now what I have to do is I have to set up my ground line. So I'm going to do a bit of sliding set squares here. If you have an adjustable, that would be just as handy. So I'm going to set up my set square on the 45-degree long edge, and I'm going to put my other set square underneath it. I'm going to slide it along. Make sure I haven't slipped there. There we go. Happy with that. Slide it along, and I always set up my ground line a bit below my spectator, just to keep it neat and tidy. In this case, this is the ground line, and it tells us that a horizon line is 50 millimeters above the ground line. So from the ground line, I'm going to measure up 50, make a little mark. And my horizon line is usually a light line. Okay, now the next little step I have to do is set up my vanishing points. These steps will never ever change. So my vanishing points are going to go parallel to the extreme edges, okay, of the face. I've got series of faces, okay, you can see here, this face right here, this edge there, they're all going parallel in this direction. These ones, this face, and obviously the back face there is all going in this direction. Okay, so what we have to do is we have to set up a vanishing point. So from the spectator, I'm going to go parallel to those faces. In this case, they're just perfectly going horizontal and vertical. Now, from the spectator, where those hit the picture plane, I'm just going to extend out that line a little bit there. I'm now going to go parallel to my line of sight, parallel to this line here, the bisected line. From where it hits the picture plane, I'm going to drop those down. Where it hits here, that is my vanishing point 2. Bring it across to this one. Slip slightly there. Set up again. Just be careful of that. This one goes all the way across to here. And this point here would be my BP1. Okay, so we're actually set up to start completing the question there now. So, the first things first. Corner A is right here. That there is touching the ground. It's on the ground here. All these points here are technically on the ground. But the only one that's actually touching the picture plane, which is really helpful to me, is this corner right there, which is here in my plan view. So from there, from that point in my plan view, what I can do is I can project down parallel to my line of sight. So from A there, I'm going to project down, sorry, there we go, project down, construction line, and that point right there is A, which is this point here. Now I can take, because that edge there is touching the picture plane, I can take that edge as a true height. Okay, so I can take the distance from up here. This is why we need the elevation. I can now take this distance here, and I can come down to my sheet, or sorry, to my ground line, and mark it up like that. Okay, now that I have that in, I'll heavy that edge in. So I've got the first edge of my drawing. Now, a couple of rules in perspective. Any faces that are running parallel, okay, or flat, they will all go out to the vanishing points. So this face here, you can see this one here, okay, that face there where we see it as a line, which is actually this face in our elevation, okay, which we see as a line in our plan. It's this face here. All that face has a series of points in it, okay? It's got a point back here, up here, over here, this one as well, connected back to here. Every one of them is running in this direction. Because it's running in that direction, I'm going to go and I'm going to project it out from this point here, out to BP1. I'm also going to project this point out to BP1. Okay, now, somewhere along that line there is this back point. Okay, somewhere out along this line is this point. I want to locate this one and this one. We'll worry about this height in a second. So to find those 2 points, first of all, I need the spectator's view of it, okay? So the spectator sees that back point over here in the plan view. So just refer to my sheet here again. This point here, I would see it here in my plan view. This one, I would see it right here. So I need the spectator's image of that. So I've already brought the spectator's image of it, and it's where it's hitting the picture plane. So this back edge hits the picture plane right here. This one, I'm going to line it up with the spectator. But what I often do is, when I line it up with the spectator, I'm going to stop it at the picture plane. Now, where the 2 of these points here hit the picture plane, I'm going to project them down parallel to my line of sight, which was parallel to the line A there originally. So this one, I'm going to bring it down. And then this one, I'm going to do the exact same. Now, what that has identified to me is how far this line goes in at the back and how far this line is heavied in up here. Now, I know it goes up a little bit further on each of these then, but before I can heavy in the actual section up here, the bit that's missing, I have to figure out the height of this section here, okay? So what we have to consider now is that this surface here is actually, I just kind of go with a green there, that surface there is all one sheet, okay? The only edge on it that was touching the picture plane was this one here, where we were able to get the true height. Now, if I want to get the height of that point right there, okay, what I'm actually going to imagine is, for a second, is that that's actually a plain square surface, okay? It is a surface, okay, but it's obviously got a section, like a cut missing out of it here. If I was to extend, we can see that edge there, if I was to extend that out, like that, and then bring this up, I would find a point right here. Okay, that point right there is actually on the picture plane because it's an extension of this edge here that goes up, and then it would be at the same height. This height here is the same height as this point, okay, of the object. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take that height from here down to here, which is this height in my elevation from here down to here, okay. I'm going to take that height, but I'm going to mark it from A, and I'm going to get this point here, and then I'll vanish it back to VP1, and somewhere along there will be that point. Okay, so in my elevation, just extend out this line, extend up that, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the height from here up to here. It's like I'm finding that little block that's missing there. Taking that height, I'm now going to mark it from A, okay, because I can only take true heights when it is touching the picture plane. And from there then, that edge is running back there, parallel then to VP1. So I'm going to vanish it back to VP1. And then you can see here it's after cutting right here. So that's after determining to me how high that face goes. And there we go. I've got that now drawn in, okay? Now that I've done that, what I want to do is I want to complete this face right here, okay? So to complete that face is running in this direction, okay? So I need to go to VP2. It's moving out to the right. So connect both points to VP2. That point then where it ends over here, need to find that point and that point, that edge there. I want to find where that edge ends. In my plan view, that will be here. Bring it down to the picture plane, obviously in line with the spectator where it hits the picture plane. I'm going to project that down then parallel to my line of sight. Set squares just keep getting caught on the page. Project that down from there where it hits the picture plane. And then that will identify to me that face right there. Now at this point we can nearly complete the rest of the object. From here it's going to run out to VP2. From the topmost point it's going to run out to VP2. And from this point it's also going to run to VP2. Okay, this point here it's going to go to VP1. Now I do need to find one point here that's a critical point. This one right there. I need to find that point which will give me this edge. Okay, that point right there. So to find that point, that is where it is here in my plan view. So if I want to find the spectator's view of it, line it up with the spectator, bring it down to it, but stop it at the picture plane. Where it hits the picture plane then, project it down parallel to your line of sight. So from there, that's going to come down here. And you can see here where it's after cutting that line there running back will determine to me that face. So I can heavy in this now. Now I can actually heavy in this edge because I can actually see how far it's going back. And now I have to get the top surface. And from this point here, it's running in that direction. So it has to go over to VP1. So I'll heavy in this. And then finally, heavy in this back edge right here. Now the lights are just going to go out there in the room, so I'll just have to move for a second. So there we have the object completed, okay? All surfaces done, and what you can see is this actual height here, okay, that height right there, in reality, this height of it would be the exact same. But you can see as it moves back in perspective, this height here appears to be smaller than this. In reality, they're the same, but obviously, as perspective, they will appear smaller because as the object moves back in the distance, it starts to kind of shorten. Okay, so that's that first question done there, guys. I hope you found that helpful. That was the first question completed there on perspective.